Am I the asshole for losing my passport to avoid babysitting on my vacation? I, 17-year-old female, still live at home. My sister, 28, is married and has 2 kids, 5 and 3. Whenever she comes over to visit my parents and her stick me with the kids, this wouldn't be a problem except she doesn't visit for an evening. She will come for a week. And for that week I'm an unpaid nanny. If we go out to a restaurant I have to entertain them because my mom needs to talk to my sister and brother-in-law. You get the picture. My parents decided that since this was my last summer before I became an adult, we would be going to Disneyland to celebrate my graduation. I asked who was going and they said it was just the 3 of us. But when we got to the airport, my sister and her family were there. Strangely enough, they were also going to Disneyland. I went into my backpack and grabbed my passport. I put it in my sock. When we got to the international security, I couldn't find it. We looked everywhere. I had to Uber home and I missed my flight. Oh well. I get to stay home by myself for a week of peace and quiet. My parents were very mad at me for losing my passport. The money they spent on my flight and entrance was wasted. Darned. My mom and sister have both been posting about how hard it is to be at Disneyland with 2 little ones. They both posted that I ruined the vacation by being so thoughtless. My dad says he knows why I did it and he understands. But he says I should have let him know so he didn't waste money. He said he would have gone along with my ruse. I feel bad about wasting money, but I have been to Disneyland before. And I will go again later by myself or with friends. Community response number 1. Yeah. Reply with, oh, I'm sorry I ruined your vacation. If you had only let me know in advance that you didn't in fact plan this vacation as a celebration for my graduation like you told me, but only wanted me there as your unpaid full-time babysitter, I'd have made more of an effort to be there. Not the asshole. Community response number 2. My dad says he knows why I did and he understands. But he says I should have let him know so he didn't waste money. He said he would have gone along with my ruse. Huh? If you only found out at the airport, then how could you have warned him? Smart move of you, though. Not the asshole. What do you think of this situation? I certainly would have lost my patience with this behavior a lot sooner than she did. I, a 23-year-old female, am an avid hiker in Australia. Last week I encountered a middle-aged woman, around 50 years old, as I was coming off a trail. She was walking in my direction as I came out of the bush. It was strange to see her. The sun was almost down and the weather was starting to turn. Also, this was an intermediate collection of trails at best, difficult even for me at worst, and she didn't look super athletic. Point is, my weird radar was going off already. She walked up to me and stopped, standing too close for my comfort, gestured toward the clearing where my car was parked, and asked whether it was my car. No greeting or anything. When I looked over, something made me uncomfortable. There were no cars other than mine in sight. The trail I was on isn't crazy far from civilization, but it's not a walk away, one of those highway rest stops that's there for the trail and a few parking spots. No way she could have got there without driving. I let her know that, yes, it was my car, to which she responded something like, perfect, there's a storm coming, I can't be caught in it and I need to get home. She was very matter of fact. It seemed like she had already decided what would happen. Without waiting for my response, she started striding for my car. I am glad I always lock my doors because she would have hopped right in the passenger seat had the door opened. As she was walking over to it, I went after her, trying to explain that I wasn't sure it was a good idea for her to hitch a ride, asking why she was out here in the first place. I was talking to a brick wall until she realized the car was locked, at which point she turned around with this look of anger and frustration on her face. She starts ranting the same stuff as before. I need to get home, a storm is coming, I cannot be caught in it, why don't you get it? I was very confused at this point and a little scared, as this woman was now a barrier between me and my vehicle. I told her something like, I'm sorry, but I don't feel comfortable with having a stranger in my car. She stared me down for a few seconds, I guess trying to gauge her chances at asking again. And just like that, the anger drops from her face and she's silent. I was really uncomfortable. I asked if I could call someone, if there was another way to help. She starts walking towards me, scary, but then right past me. I'm still asking her questions, then just saying things like hello and excuse me. No response. She walked to the other end of the rest stop and maintained eye contact with me as she sat down on a log, then just stared at nothing. I didn't follow her. I got into my car really shaken up and drove away. As soon as I was back in cell range, I called fire and rescue. They said they would send someone out. I was scared for my safety in the moment, but she was just some woman alone in the middle of nowhere. Am I the asshole for refusing this strange woman a ride or shelter in my car? Community response number 1. Not the asshole. You called for assistance for her as soon as you were able. Good. Was there a storm coming? It would be an indicator if the woman was more or less stable mentally. I can tell her attitude rattled you. You don't owe some random demanding woman a ride, ever. Community response number 2. Something to keep in mind: when someone violates social norms or tries to bulldoze over your reasonable questions, they either have really poor judgment, possible mental health issues, or ill intentions. All of those make them potentially dangerous. You got yourself out of there and you got her help. That's absolutely the best thing you could do. If something feels off, you can offer to call help, but don't put yourself in a vulnerable position. What would you have done in this situation out in the middle of nowhere? Pretty unsettling if you ask me. Am I the asshole for being pissed there was no alcohol at a wedding? One of my, male 35, best friends, male 34, got married last week. He drinks alcohol and our friend group will meet up at breweries a few times a month to hang out. His fiancée, now wife, does not drink. It's never been a part of her life. My wife and I got a hotel room by the reception space and Ubered to the wedding. The ceremony occurs, we go to what's supposed to be cocktail hour, and there was just soda and water. No alcohol. This was not something we knew about ahead of time. There was a palpable buzz among our friend group at the lack of booze. A lot of us had spent money on a hotel room and Ubering anticipating drinking. I am kind of pissed. Bride and groom come to cocktail hour, everyone cheers, and when the bride and groom come mingle with us, I ask where is the booze. His new wife chimes in saying her family does not drink and they were paying for the wedding, thus no alcohol. I tell them we should know that ahead of time. I say I wasted money on a hotel room and Ubering. I would have just driven if I'd known, or maybe not even had come. The bride does not take my commentary well and implies I might have a drinking problem. I don't. I only drink with my friends. The groom says I don't need to be such an asshole. I reiterate that I spent a bunch of money on something I didn't need. We all did. The bride's pissed at me and asks me to leave. My wife and I leave, but it's clear I touched a nerve. In our group chat, friends were mixed on me saying something. My wife said I wasn't wrong, but my timing was wrong. So was I the asshole? Community response number 1. Imagine getting mad at someone who has spent thousands of dollars for their wedding on a venue, or in this case the very kind parents, and to feed you and being selfish enough to complain it wasn't good enough. Who does that? I don't go to a restaurant with someone who has covered the cost of my entree and yell at them for not wanting to buy me a dessert because I was expecting it. I'd honestly never speak to someone who told me if they knew there wouldn't be alcohol they wouldn't have come to my wedding, or was that selfish the day wasn't about what they wanted. People need to get their obsession with alcohol in check. Yes, you're the asshole. What do you think? Do you agree with these community responses so far? Leave your thoughts below in the comments. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes.